Estás viendo Canal América, televisión dominicana para el mundo.
The Time for True show is sponsored by the Office of Dr. Bernard Fialkoff, a periodontal, dental implant and laser specialist in New York City, for over 40 years. Dr. Fialkoff was honored by the International College of Dentists and Pierre Fauchard, and received the Presidential Lifetime Humanitarian Honor from the White House. Call us at 718-229-3838.
Sometimes life can be so damn hard. You don't know where to go. Everything keeps falling apart. Yeah. You try to do your best, but only God knows that you've given everything you've got, but the world takes you down. You just keep moving on. Let your fears.
Welcome to A Time for True show. And we're going to be continuing with part 2 of stress and the ways we handle it and what we're going to do to actually be successful, to not have it rule our lives, but to have us be in charge of what's happening in our lives. And so let's get right into it because we have a lot to cover. The last episode, part 1, we covered stress, smoking, the consequences of this vaping and the smoking, and the different factors that people turn to when they lose hope, when they lose their confidence, their compass direction, their confidence in life, their ability to control things. So now let's delve into then, so what can we do? Is there a solution? Or are we just doomed to have stress and we just have to give in? And we just have to allow ourselves to be controlled by external means. So let's take a look. Let's see what are the physical, chemical, spiritual factors that we can look at here. And let's see what will actually work. So let's start with the first slide. And then the last program, we started touching upon certain natural physiological mediators that occur in the body. And we're going to show you a slide here right at the beginning, the first image of this presentation. And we're going to go over 4 mediators that are found in our bodies naturally. Some people humorously call them happy hormones, and they're known as dopamine, serotonin, the endorphins, and oxytocin. And so these are what's called happy hormones. Let's go on to the next slide. They're naturally occurring, and there's nothing you have to do to actually have them occur in your body. They exist every single day. Now, very interesting, because at the beginning of the show, at the outset, I alluded to not only physical and chemical, but also spiritual. And it's very interesting that the human body is set up so that your normal physiological happy hormone that you could say that God put there in your body, dopamine, is released when you achieve a goal. What is a goal? A goal is a dream of yours. Maybe you wanted to sing and make people happy with your singing, with your songs. Maybe you were a composer and you composed music. Maybe you were a poet. Maybe you were a teacher and you wanted to teach young children. Maybe you were a scientist and you wanted to find a cure for a deadly disease. Maybe you wanted to be a military man and lead your country away from slavery and towards freedom. Maybe you wanted to be an astronaut and go to new worlds, to Mars, to Venus. Those are your goals. Those are your dreams. And if they're pro-survival, which means that for the benefit of humanity, they're wonderful dreams. And it's very interesting that dopamine is released when you achieve one of your goals. You can have more than one goal in life. And when you achieve those goals, those dreams, those purposes, dopamine gets released. You know that because probably you experienced that when you played a sport, especially when you were younger, and you got a hit and drove in the winning run, or you caught the ball that ended the game, or maybe in dance you danced a certain uh, dance that was unbelievable and entertained the audience. Maybe it was a simple play, whatever it would be, and you achieved your goal and you felt tremendously happy, and dopamine was released in your body. It's also something that occurs when you're with loved ones, and when you have pleasure and satisfaction. And it's very interesting that most of the time, again, that happens at weddings, that happens at confirmations, bar mitzvahs, birthday parties, graduations. Again, very interesting because we're accomplishing goals. We're having events of value, not just to the person, but to all of humanity. And really, when you look at it, we're all working to go forward into the future and to make a better life for all of us. Let's go on to the next slide. And very interesting that life is really made up that way. Now, what is serotonin? Now, serotonin, which is also one of the happy mediators in the body, and regulates mood. It regulates your sleep. Obviously, if you're not in a good mood and you're anxious, you may not sleep well. And if you don't sleep well, you start getting more steroids, more cortisol. And when you have more cortisol, you start getting more disease, you start gaining weight, you start having problems. But when you have serotonin, it regulates these things. And so things are under control, and you sleep well, and your mood is good, and your appetite is under control. You're not eating excessively. When you're stressed, you tend to want to do something. And unfortunately, sometimes that's something that you want to have is food. And the food leads to cravings and overeating and overweight, and then you're unhappy. So, it's like a vicious cycle, a vicious circle. Now, what's another happy hormone is endorphin. And the endorphins, I'm sure you're aware of, are released a lot during exercise, during happy moments, as I've mentioned in the previous hormones. And the endorphins also seem to be the body's natural pain relievers. It's almost like the body said, you had to go through a lot. You had to suffer, but you did it for a good cause. And so we're relieving your pain. And it's very interesting because I know it seems dramatic, a little bit of Hollywood, the way I put it to you, but it's amazingly enough that that's the way the body works. That is a natural pain reliever, and they are released in athletes after they've run marathons, after they've had matches that were extremely difficult, and they succeeded in their goals. And then the endorphins were released, the person fell high. Some people call it runner's high, and it occurs after a certain level of exertion. It's almost as if life was rewarding production. And it's almost as life was saying, you produce, we'll give you a natural high. You won't need a drug. You won't need to have anything legalized. You just have to go ahead and take care of things yourself, not because of rules and regulations, but because of your own personal morality, your own code of conduct, your own integrity. And it's very interesting because, true enough and scientifically studied, when we exercise, when we laugh because of some wonderful or funny experience together, endorphins, again, are released. And we feel high. We feel a sense of euphoria. You can get this with swimming. You can get it from jogging, dancing, jumping rope. It's very interesting that when you have Probiotics. What are probiotics? Probiotics are bacteria that are good for your intestinal system, which will help you with your serotonin release, which will then help you with your mood. And it's very interesting that when you take care of your gut, which is digesting and doing so much for you in terms of your life, that again, you get rewarded by life itself. Another factor is to get out and get out of the indoors and go outdoors. And when you go outdoors, it's most of the time you're with more people, you're in more space, and lo and behold, you get sunlight. It's very interesting again how things correlate, and they seem almost like really nothing to speak of, and like making too much out of something. But it's very interesting how life is already coordinated in such a fashion that certain activities lead to feeling good, to feeling high, to feeling healthy. And one of those is sunlight. And sunlight by itself, again, will lead to more release of these happy hormones. And very, very interesting. And there's other habits that you can have, communicative habits, not to be individuated and be away from everyone, but to socialize and to interact and to be more involved with your community. It's very interesting because the U.S. Surgeon General just recently came out with a whole advisory on the epidemic of what he labeled loneliness and isolation, and the scientific discoveries that by socializing and by interacting and communicating, how disease rates go down, how you live a healthier life, how it's our obligation, all of us as citizens of this country and really of the world, to socialize with each other, to interact with each other. And it's not just something in some kind of philosophical book or religious book or morality book, but it's actually something that's proven out scientifically and also in terms of studies and communities, that our communities are suffering from a lack of this interaction. And you could say that their happy hormones are not there because we have violence, we have drugs, we have homelessness, we have murder, and the what's going on across the world. Some people even go as far as to say that the natural disasters that are occurring at an increasing rate, that why are they occurring? And that's up to you, the viewer, to take a look at. But how far this goes is up to really, I think, insight. It seems like things that we thought years ago, as we thought when Magellan was going to fall off the square of the earth, when he sailed around the world, and he proved that the earth was a circle, it was a globe. He didn't fall off the earth, and so then Magellan was accepted, and the fact that the earth was round was accepted. So it's very, very interesting to realize how things change as we evolve, as we have more understanding. So now, let's go on to the next slide, and we'll go further with this because we want to look at that. Okay, so if these are happy hormones, and we have oxytocin, which is a love hormone or interaction hormone of relationships. Well, let's go on to now the next slide. In the next slide, what we're going to go over here is, okay, if we know these are the factors that are involved, what can we do? Well, let's take a look at something from Harvard Medical School, and you can boost the levels of these hormones with lifestyle changes. Like what lifestyle changes? Well, your diet, to eat a more organic, nutritious diet. Exercise, which I've been talking about. Meditation, yoga, whatever communicative, integrity, philosophical, humanitarian approach you like to take a look at. No one should dictate to you. It should be your choice. But take a look at it and look at how, as the Surgeon General himself said, that our interactions do create physical and community problems. So we need to take a look at all the different venues that are open to us for spiritual gain, for spiritual freedom. And not only that, but as our moods change, so do our hormones change, which has also been studied and researched scientifically. And you can get into arguments about the chicken and the egg, if it was the mood or it was the hormone. No, it was a hormone, then it was mood, no, it was the mood, then the hormone. Uh, but that's, again, up to you to decide. Because what we're doing with stress is getting you in control. Stress is being out of control. Stress is being confused. Stress is being in doubt. So the purpose of this show is to give you information so you can make your own decision. Let's go on to the next slide. And as we're getting this information, we're seeing our lifestyle can change, that our spirituality can change from Harvard Medical School, from the Surgeon General. And we see that exercise and diet and spending time with people, that does make a change, and that this will help you to feel better, to prevent depression. And when you look at how many people in the world are complaining of their mental health, their mental well-beingness, their happiness, they're trying to find happiness, a way to happiness, that we need to start looking at our responsibilities, not only nutritionally and physically with exercise, but spiritually in terms of our integrity, honesty, and help for the community. Let's go on to the next one. And we'll go on now, and we're going to take a look at other factors that you can control on this next slide that have to do with your happiness and your ability in life to feel better. So engineer, if you can put on the next image. And the next image has to do with foods that you can actually eat. And these foods actually allow you to feel better. It's very interesting. While the image is being put on, there we go. Sometimes it's also a statement I like to bring out. When something is very good, you can rest assured that there will be many slows, delays, and stops. Why that happens? One of my friends was joking the other day, says the devil doesn't want it to come out. And, I started laughing. But I got to tell you, it's so interesting how when things are very positive, how there does seem to be some correlation to the fact that things seem to slow down and stop. But let's go ahead now. We finally have the slide. And we take a look at some foods that make you happy. And it's very interesting because they're actually tasty foods. If you go back to the other slide, because, we want to stay with the slide that we were on with the food. One of them was chocolate. The other one was almonds. The other ones were apples, bananas, strawberries, beetroot. They don't have avocado here, but avocados, eggs. You see, all of these different foods that are nutritious and healthy for you. And it's very interesting because they increase your dopamine. Let's go on to the next slide. And on this next slide, we have the physical factors. And in these physical factors, we have exercise. So exercise, again, now you're producing, you're utilizing, you're being responsible. You're not just craving and taking without regard. And it's very interesting how it seems like, again, in life, there's a little bit of challenge. And that challenge is to do something, to exert energy, to go in a direction that not only is good for you, but is good in general. You can look at it just for your body, or also the fact that you live healthier for your family, or the fact that you'll be a more relaxed, calm boss, that you're going to be better at your job. So that exercise is not just something that's for you alone. It actually has a lot of impacts in the way you socialize with people and the way you react with people. It's very interesting how very strong men and women, not only strong spiritually, but physically, are very kind people. It seems like, again, in life, that the stronger we are, the more aware we are of the unbelievable miracle of life, and that we're more appreciative, we're more caring, we're more loving. And that comes back to us. And we were dealing with stress, and it almost seems like we lost the stress, but that is how you lose the stress. You start putting positivity in your life. You start following positive lifestyles, whether it be nutrition, whether it be physical, exercise, community activity, mental approach, philosophical approach. They all interact. It's a harmonious collaboration. You know, it's life is not just a simplistic one formula, one reaction type of thing. And so you have all these different habits that you can get in your life with the exercise, with the eating healthy, with the sleeping well, with meditating, with seeking spiritual advancement. Let's go on to the next slide. All of these things lead to you being a happier person, being a person that's not overwhelmed. Here you see someone who's overwhelmed. Why are they overwhelmed? They're in fear. They don't know what to do. Should they run away? Should they stay? What happens, this is called the fight or flight response. And something to integrate with this fight or flight response is that if you label someone an enemy, you're going to tend to have more fight or flight response. But if you actually are kind to another person, and if you look at another person not as an adversary, not as an opponent to knock out in the ring, but as another human being who's helping you to be warm in the wintertime, who's helping you to have water when you're thirsty in the summertime, who's making fruit trees that he's going to share with you if you share your automobiles with him and share some of your antibiotic penicillin. So if he got sick in his agricultural field, you help him with the antibiotic. I know that sometimes it seems very simplistic, but sometimes we get lost in the complexities of life, not realizing how much fight or flight response will be if you look at other people as your friends, as potential allies. What would happen in Ukraine and Israel if that were to be applied? When they're fighting in the desert that's dry and parched, when they could be working together to solve these things. When they're fighting in areas that get extremely cold in the wintertime, yet they're killing each other instead of seeking shelter and helping each other. Sometimes you look at this and you say, well, where's the logic? And it seems like it's missing, which would lead to more fight or flight animalistic response versus a more logical humanitarian approach, community approach, open-minded approach, an intelligent approach. Because if you really look at it, as a doctor, I can tell you we all bleed red, and eventually we all die. So it's something that we need to look at and live a better life. Not because I'm proposing it or from some preacher's pulpit, but because really we would all benefit. Let's go on to the next slide, the next image. And, you know, really what this show is about is not only you living a better life, but you helping others to live a better life. Because if you have a more caring attitude, that other person will have less of a fight or flight response. They'll have less adrenal fatigue. They'll sleep better. They won't have so much cortisol circulating, so they're obese. They won't be dieting with diet pills and having amphetamines in their bodies and being hyper, trying to lose weight, or smoking so they don't gain weight, and having nicotine addiction. With all of these things that we're looking at here with this fight or flight response. You know, one of the things in the community that seems very large is sexual potency. And it's very interesting that that also would be alleviated if the fight or flight response were decreased. And it's interesting how so many of these complaints that we have, that we seek chemical solutions for, that we seek medicinal solutions for, would be resolved if we actually pursued a more collaborative and broad approach, not just me, but for us. Not just for one, but for the many. Not to give up your rights, but to keep all of your rights, but to work as a collaborative whole. Not because we're all going to be one, but so that we all can help each other and work better and reach our dreams. There's many, many dreams beyond wars and conflicts and fighting and opponents. There's many, many creative and artistic goals that exist in the world that are much more pro-survival for all of us watching this show. So now I want to show you a video that I made specifically for this show. An engineer, if you will, you have a video that I sent you, and I want to play this video for you. from a very nice area in a very rural area with nature in the springtime, and it has a certain mood to it and a certain appeal. Let's put that videotape on, please, Buddha.
If you're looking to be happier, if you're looking to lose weight, if you're looking to be healthier, whatever. Today's world gives us so many advancements, but they're technological. And we have to take a look at what we are. We're human beings. We're part of the miracle of life. When you look around, the solution is there. It's a simple solution. Being part of life, being in harmony with life. Producing, creating, yes, but being in harmony. The sun that's shining, the trees that are sprouting, the flowers that are blooming, the birds, the animals. None of them complain that they're working too hard, that they need to get paid more, that they're going on strike. Be the artist in your life. Take charge. Look at your life. Be happy. Be creative. Lose weight. Be who you want to be. Don't let life control you. You will be the artist in your life.
And with that, there's no need to say more. Be the artist in your life. Take control. You have all the information now. Feel free to go on the internet and make sure that it's all collaborated, that it's all there, that nothing is there that I haven't told you. Research it for yourself, find out for yourself, and be the artist in your life. I hope this show has helped you, part 2, and that you can move forward. From a Time for Truth show and from all the staff at Canal America, have a happy life. Good night.
This show was sponsored by A Time for Truth Foundation Incorporated as a community service.
Sometimes life can be so damn hard. You don't know where to go. Everything keeps falling apart. Yeah. You try to do your best, but only God knows that you've given everything you've got, but the world takes you down. You just keep moving on. Let your feet